So this is kind of an interesting turn of events that we are going to be talking about. The uniqueness of this solstice and what it might mean for each of us. This was at the request of one of you who made me aware of this particular astronomical event, which is the coming together of Jupiter and Saturn, which the astronomers are talking about. But then there is also the astrological aspect of that. And aside from that conjunction where two planets are close together, very close together, this is also solstice. So all of that is happening at once. And as it seems that, and I'm not really, don't know much what I'm talking about in terms of astrology, but you will see that there is a reason for us thinking about this. So the two planets will come either close to each other or opposite each other once every 10 years. So their coming together is a once in 20 years event. And this is kind of the benchmark that astrologers use for time periods between these events, because many things shift when these planets come either together or opposite each other. That's interesting, but what's also interesting is that they do this in some astrological sign, and the signs are, of course, designated or classified into how they affect different elements. So it's been in a water sign, I think, for the last 20 years. It will be in tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be moving into an air sign. And according to the astrologers, air signs, since 1802, the Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions have been in earth signs. And now they will be shifting into air signs. And the air sign brings disruption to established orders and dramatic changes in collective ideas and the way we communicate. So that will be happening for the next 100 years, I think, or 200 years maybe. So yeah, this is until 2159, we'll be in the air signs with these. So that gives you a lot of time to take advantage of this shift. And so what they say, and I'm reading you this, that when Jupiter and Saturn combine, Jupiter has this expansive nature and imaginative vision but Saturn has this structure and discipline. So when the two come together, that's particularly conducive to transformation and big changes. So that will begin tomorrow, and it will begin in the sign of Aquarius, which is also about, you know, new things and new ages and transformation. So any one of these things, the conjunction, moving into air signs, the solstice, the event happening in Aquarius, any of these would be stir things up and lead to big changes. So we hit the jackpot tomorrow. Of course, it's not just tomorrow, but it begins tomorrow. So yeah, and there's something else about it too. They will be forming a square with Uranus, and that is also intensifying all of this. So the long and short of it is that the time is here for transformation of social structures. All these things are going to be subject to transformation and some chaos around the process. And so, hooray. But for us, in our little meditation circle here, the question is, what do we do with this? And so this is the time to be refining our approach to transformation, to begin to use our meditation as a way of moving toward that. And in general, to work, you remember this series started with health and serenity. The serenity to move through the chaos of transformation, because it's going to be a chaotic one. And might as well adjust and learn to benefit from it, because it's going to last for 20 years. So that's our topic tonight, is using meditation for transformation and preparing our health, our serenity, our grounding, to be able to joyously go through transformation instead of being battered around by it. So if there are huge changes coming, we want to be able to embrace them and celebrate them and help guide them to being something that is positive. So I want to encourage you to think about that right now, and also to ask questions about how, or questions you might have about how to deal with that. I think that actually probably meditation is the one most powerful tool to use for transformation, because meditation is actually opening for us pathways that we've not known about before. And that's what we need when we transform. We need a place to transform into. And that doesn't mean a physical place. It means a place within. Sorry, Linda's phone is ringing, and Linda's not here. Okay, I think that's over. Yes, Arabella.
Sorry, I almost forgot to unmute. In times of great transformation, I tend to be attracted to the Mahāmṛityunjaya and to walnut flower essences.
Yes, yes.
Could you speak about those two?
Absolutely. Well, for those of you who don't know about flower essences, this is, I mean, how many people have used flower essences? Just raise your hand. Wow, that's almost everybody. Yeah, well, flower essences are very powerful, very gentle, totally non-toxic, not expensive. I mean, they sort of got everything going for them. And the only hang up with flower essences is knowing which one to use, because there are literally thousands of flower essences. There are many schools of flower essences all over the world. They have the ability to support shifts in awareness and shifts in emotional complexes within. So they're very, very useful. Walnut is an English flower essence. Many of the ones we use are California flower essences, but this is an English one. And it is for any kind of abrupt or potentially disruptive change. So, you know, if you, even when you're traveling, some people use walnut drops to help with the jet lag or just the shift from one place to the other. If you end a career and start something, or you go through a divorce, or any kind of major life change, or even minor life changes, but walnut flower essence is a real friend. I mean, it really helps and makes the transition very smooth. So that's a great idea. I would encourage all of you to explore the flower essences. You know, you can get a book on flower essences. There are many books, but the one that I use most is the handbook for the California flower essences. I don't know whether it's in print right now, but I think you can get it. Yeah, Arabella.
It's actually available free online at the Flower Essence Society.
Oh, just online,
yeah.
On the screen, not a paper
Yeah,
book.
you have to do a little search to find it, but you can find it there.
Great. Say that again, where you found it.
It's the Flower Essence Society. If you Google that, you'll be able to find it and look for their repertoire.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, repertory. Yeah, excellent. So, you know, this could be an opening for people who just maybe haven't used them much, or use them just a little bit, or because it can really make a difference in your life. So thank you, Arabella, for that suggestion. Now, the mantra that Arabella is pointing to is really one of the most renowned mantras in the field of Tantra. And Stephen, if I were to ask you to do it for us, would you be willing? Stephen has really good pronunciation because he studied Sanskrit for many years. And Arabella, you may too, but I've heard Stephen do it, so that's why I'm leaning on him. Let me say a few words about it first. It's called the Mahāmṛityunjaya mantra, which means the great victory over death. And it is, it indeed delivers. It's the great victory over death. So what does that mean? And I don't know whether I was explaining this last week to you or some other group, but anyway, when we move from this consciousness that we are immersed in today, which is called the mental structure of consciousness, or in the scriptures, it's called the
waking state.
What is it?
Waking state.
Well, yeah, waking consciousness. We are totally inside linear time, and we are inside this earthly incarnation. But when we move from that consciousness, that everyday waking consciousness, into the next state, which scriptures actually call the fourth state, because there's deep sleep, there's dreaming sleep, there's waking consciousness, and then there's the fourth state. Turiya is the Sanskrit word for the fourth state. When we move to that state of consciousness, we are no longer conscious merely of this time in linear time. We're freed from linear time, so to speak, nor are we limited to our identity with this one body, but we are identified with all bodies and all parts of the universe. And so when that happens, the loss, or that's not even the right word, the end of this particular physical body is a very minor event, and it hardly affects our consciousness. So that's the victory over death. And it's available, and probably not an exaggeration to say that's where we're all headed. And this next 20 years of transformation may be a big step in that direction. That's what we hope. So yes, so these are some tools that you can use to help prepare yourself, or to deal with the chaos of widespread transformation. But also, taking care of yourself is really important. Taking care of your health, particularly, and your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, so that a chaotic transformation doesn't throw you for a loop. You want to have the flexibility, the fluidity, the poise to be able to, as I said before, embrace change enthusiastically, and to play a part in guiding that change. So that takes us back to familiar territory, like, what is our diet? Do we exercise? Are we doing yoga, hatha yoga, to keep the body in good shape? And in our meditation, it's a great time for clearing away stuff that was put in the closet decades ago, like, I don't want to deal with that. But that can undermine your poise and your sense of well-being. So open the closet and let all the junk fall out. That means you sit in meditation and allow things to come up, and invite them, don't run from them. nor do you get tangled up in them or identified with them, but you see them. And this has been happening. You know, there are these interesting times that are very useful for transformation and for spiritual work. And it just so happened that last week there were 4 days: Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. No, 3 days: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that the old folks called Ember Days. And this is a part of actually many different spiritual traditions. But there are days when if you have something you want to get rid of, like plants growing in the garden that are pests, that's the time. If you pull them up or cut them down, they don't come back. So there are Ember Days 4 times a year. Once in the winter, once in spring, once in summer, once in the fall. They're not on any particular date or according to any particular astrological sign, but this is something that has been observed and written about and used for, I guess, more than 1,000 years, at least that we know about. And so, I noticed that, and I noticed that suddenly I was looking out the window at the housing that we drive past in Old Fort, which is a really low-income town, country folk who have been reduced to mostly no ability to farm and jobs that are difficult, and are living in mobile homes that aren't always very healthy, because they have a lot of chemicals in them, and working 2 jobs and really struggling. And so the housing and the grounds all are kind of bleak. So I was looking at this, and my usual response is, oh my God, that's just awful. But I thought, well, now that's not helping. Thinking that doesn't really help much. So I thought, you know what? That little trailer and that piece of land is the perfect place to have a permaculture homestead. And so I'm just going to picture that, with the vines on a trellis over the front door that have grapes on them, and vegetables planted around, and chickens outside. And I'm just going to envision that. And I thought, well, that never occurred to me before. Why did it not occur to me? Why did that misstep? Wasn't it obvious? And then I realized, well, this is an Ember Day. And that's actually how they were developed by the spiritual traditions, as this is a time for prayer and cleansing and purification. So, we need to ride on the waves. If the wave comes by, hop on and ride on it, and so we have this thing happening tomorrow, which, you don't have to jump on in a hurry. It's going to be doing it for quite a while, but use that opportunity. And, in your meditation, when something comes up, just, kind of wonder, oh, well, is that something that I want? Or does that come up often? Do I still want it? Well, what can I do if I don't want it? And there are very definite things you can do. And one thing you can do is make sure you don't engage with it. Don't get caught up in it. Well, I shouldn't think that way. That's really awful. Don't start arguing or defending that particular thought or action that you do, or something memory you have, or whatever. Just allow it to emerge and be seen, and then allow it to just keep going. And one way you can do that, if you aren't able to resist the temptation to get involved with it and think about it and remember and be angry at the people that were involved, or regretful or resentful or whatever. If you don't want to do that, then let it come up and then focus your attention on the breath, or focus your attention on a mantra like Soham, and just, you know, take your attention. It's like a kid, you know, your mind is like a kid. You know, you don't argue with the kid. No, you shouldn't be playing with that. You can hurt yourself. It's a knife. You know, you just sort of say, oh, look over there, take it away and put it behind you and get them interested in something else. Well, that's how we have to deal with the mind, because it's rather childish by nature. And so, you know, these are all tricks that work. And so this is a time to use them. In the interests of health, serenity, and joyous transformation. Oh, so I just went right past the Mahāmṛityunjaya mantra, but it's still there.
Remember the last time he spoke the mantra?
Oh, okay, we'll take a chance. We remember the last time you did this. I'll tell them about that after you do it. I don't want to distract everybody right now. But Stephen, if you would kind of enunciate it and let us listen, that we'd be grateful.
Okay. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyamamrita.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, Garrel was getting a little upset there because the last time we were with Stephen in Oaxaca on the coast, sitting in a little terrace, rooftop, half-sheltered terrace by the beach. And we did a satsang, and we had people from many different countries who were visiting there came to the satsang. There were only about 8 or 10 of us from about 5 or 6 countries, but we mentioned the mantra, and then I asked Stephen if he would recite it. And this is in the middle of winter in Oaxaca on the coast, where it's dry and they don't have rain. And when he said the last syllable, there was a huge bolt of lightning, and the rain just came pouring down, and everybody had to jump up and move because some people weren't under the shelter. And and the host looked at me and said, "Does he have a mantra to stop it?" And I just laughed and laughed. It didn't last long, but it was very dramatic and really amazing. So it's needless to say, it is a powerful mantra. And if you liked it and you want to know more, or you'd like to maybe try it, you can find it online with many different sort of rhythms and meters and so forth. Find one you like. Unfortunately, I don't think Stephen's online, but you should be. And you know, you can practice it. It has amazing effects. And I know one friend who was in the Middle East and got caught up in a conflict and was taken to jail. And it was a very challenging situation because there were people being tortured in cells nearby, and he was sitting there for like 3 or 4 days without anything to eat and without any warm clothes, just hearing the screaming and not knowing whether he was next, you know. So he said, it was the Mahāmṛityunjaya mantra that was the train I got on that took me out of there, you know, and that really was an amazing resource for him. So you can practice it. It will, you know, it will be helpful, especially in those times when you feel that the situation is trying. It can be very helpful. Yes, Joseph. Are you muted? You're muted. You have to unmute yourself, Joseph.
Well, you know, it's very simple. Technology is really almost late 19th, 20th century. You could post it right here and just take a picture so we can see it in the words, because obviously I don't think any of us can write down what we heard in the mantra chant. If you had the text, it would be wonderful. You can put it in chat. You can put it on screen. You know, this is a no-brainer technology. And if I had it in front of me, I'd do it for you.
Yeah, it's not that simple, really, because the transliteration into English doesn't capture the Sanskrit sounds very well, unless
true. But if we have at least the Sanskrit words, we'll do what we can with it. You know.
But better, you listen to it online, and all you have to do is go on Google and put Mahāmṛityunjaya, Mahāmṛityunjaya. If you put that much, it'll mantra, or you can add the word mantra. But it'll come up. You'll get lots of possibilities, and they're all video. A lot of them are videos. You can listen to it, and sometimes they will just do it over and over and over and over, and you can listen to that, and soon you'll be doing it perfectly, or close to that. Okay, can you see? Beck just put it up.
In the chat. In the chat.
In the chat. So if you go to the chat, here, let's look. Mahāmṛityunjaya. Yeah, she wrote it out in English. And oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, so that's something. So okay, I told you about the event. and you know, other mantras also help. The Soham mantra is always there, very simple to remember and very serviceable. You can't go wrong with that. But the mantra has many uses. One is to help collect your wits when you're stressed, but another is to focus your attention on, so that you don't get caught up in negative things that come up in meditation. Because if you allow them to emerge, sometimes that can be challenging. I suspect if all this astrological predictions are true, they're going to be coming up without much encouragement. And situations will be coming up that are challenging. Yes, Joseph.
I just thought if you would speak on, you know, the mantra is a tricky thing. We all have mantra. The Christians recited mantras during World War I and II. and only 50 million people were killed, and some say, well, it could have been 100 million, but the Mantras reduced it to 50. So I never know. I mean, what you said is absolutely right. The concentration factor, that's almost somatic. But, as far as everything else, I've been reciting Buddhist mantras for 45 years, and I guess they help, but it's not, it's not dependable. It seems like you've got to really unify it with a lot of other things. But I'd like to hear your commentary, because what you just said is, I got very clear, and I think that was good, the focusing and watching your thoughts,
Yeah, okay, well, thank you for that comment. And so there's an art and a science, I guess, to working with mantra. And so there's the repetition of the mantra is called japa. So many of you know that term, japa. But there's also something called ajapa japa. And so ajapa means no japa. But no japa comes, the mantra can come through doing japa, a repetition, but eventually, without doing any repetition, it just starts showing up. And that's ajapa japa. You're not saying the mantra has been stored in your memory banks and it's emerging. And that's really the intention of most mantra practice, at least in the tradition I'm familiar with, is that you you do you have your mala here like this, and and you do the repetitions, and you do them for every day for a mala or 2 malas, 3 malas, 15 malas, whatever you want to do. And then eventually that that mantra that you've been repeating, when you're just quiet and sitting, you start hearing it. It starts emerging from your memory banks. And that's called ajapa japa. And that is extremely helpful in stress situations, because when you're stressed, you might not remember to use the mantra. But if the mantra is just coming up, you just say, oh, excuse me, I'm going to catch a ride with this. I mean, you don't say that, but because people might lock you up. But you just you hop on it and go with it. And then you feel connected in the way that mantra is able to connect you. And the Soham mantra, of course, is connecting us up and connecting us down. That's why it's so wonderful, because we're grounded in the earth, and we're also connected to the higher one unitary consciousness. And that makes you pretty sturdy. If you're connected down here and connected up there, you can handle a lot. So if you do the Soham with your meditation on a regular basis, you'll find that you're just sitting around and you realize in your head it's so on inhalation and hum on exhalation. It's like, wow, I don't even have to turn on the radio. I have this thing happening. And so that's one use of the mantra. And the other use of the mantra is to turn to it deliberately, not have it coming up on its own. That requires some input. That requires some practice to get it to the point where it's there. But even when that's not true, you can turn your attention in meditation to the mantra when you feel that something is coming up that's disturbing you, because you want it to come up, you want it to empty out. You don't want it to disturb you. So if it still has a lot of emotional charge, then better you turn your attention to the mantra and let it float away more easily. So as you do that, it doesn't mean that it'll never come back, but each time you do that, it comes back in a weaker and weaker form until finally you hardly notice it. And then you're free of that. So this is actually a cleansing technique. Some traditions call it a kriya, which is also a word that can mean cleansing. But kriya just comes from karna, right? Karana, to do. I think that's the meaning of it. Is that right, Arabella, Stephen? The word, the Sanskrit word kriya, does it just mean something?
It comes from the root kra, and kra is to do or to make.
Yes, yes. In Hindi, it's karana.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm more of the Italian and less of the Latin persuasion. Because I never, well, whatever. So anyway, yeah. This whole mantra thing is something to be really treated with respect and invest some time into it, because it's really valuable. And if you don't have a mala, you can get them easily. There are 108 beads. And you just, that can be part of your meditation practice. Do if you don't want to do a whole mala, I do this sometimes. You catch the little one on the end and you go to the other end and you have half a mala. And then when you get to it and feel that little one that sticks out, okay, I've done half a mala, I can stop. Because, otherwise you're thinking, is that all? Do I have more? So you don't want to have those thoughts in the way. So you just do that and then you go through, and when you hit the bump, you go, okay, I've done it. And you can't hardly go wrong doing, as long as you use mantras that have a beneficial effect. And we aren't interested in those that don't. So, good. So, Joseph, was that of help? Use?
Yes, but I have to tell you just a funny story, because many years ago when I had a mala and I was in India and doing the practice, the mala fell apart during a wild dance, and I thought that was a sign that I shouldn't be using malas. All the beads went all over the floor on the dance floor. You can imagine.
Oh my God. Or maybe it was just a sign that you needed to get a new mala. Oh, but yeah, that would be embarrassing. Okay. All right. So, what else? Relationships. Oh yes, relationships. Relationships need tending, and relationships are. It's a good idea to put them in order when you're going to go through a period of chaotic transformation. And that means tending your relationship. Watching what you do yourself, and extending your compassion out to the other person who has to deal with what you're doing, and asking yourself the question: is this helpful to this other person, or is this really an imposition? And what's the habit behind that? And why do I feel the inclination to do that? And how can I let that go? And how can I? So a very good practice with relationships is to focus on the heart center. Well, the heart center is all about relationship. Focus on the heart center. And then the person that you're relating to, focus on their heart center. And just visualize or imagine a connection between the two. It's a very simple thing to do. And you might find the results interesting. Just once is not much, but it's especially if you've noticed that, okay, this relationship isn't as comfortable as it used to be, or I feel some tension. Well, we could talk for hours and yell and scream. We could do all kinds of things. But before you resort to that, you might just do this little exercise. Try this little technique to just visualize the connection between your heart and the other person's heart. And then notice how you feel differently and how things transpire. It's an experiment. And you might find it really helpful. So this is part of, what are the things that can throw us off so that we feel traumatized by transformation? And it's disruption of our relationships. It's bad diet, lack of exercise, tension in the body, which Hatha Yoga helps with, and just a lack of centering inside ourselves. And that's where meditation and the Soham can really be helpful to get us grounded and centered and find a place inside that you feel sturdy. And if you have challenges in your work, which is another issue, you may need to take a flower essence like Mountain Pride, which gives you a sturdy sense of, well, these are my values and this is what I believe and I have to speak them. And that can be very helpful. So look around. What are the things that need attention for you to prepare yourself so that you can welcome transformation? Transformation of yourself, transformation around you as the world shifts and changes. I mean, the astrologers said that I can't find it in their write-up, but that suggesting that this is the kind of astrological configuration that can really support the change of social structures and the change of financial structures and the shift in how we deal with people who are disadvantaged financially, which right now they're living in the street. And this could be a time when things shift so that that's not necessary anymore. And so, that sounds great, but for some of us that might impinge on us in some way that we don't particularly like. So that's where we need the composure to be able to accept, okay, well, this might be uncomfortable for me, but this is helping some people a lot. And so the time may be coming when it looks like things are set up for that kind of thing to happen. And if we can each welcome it, then so much more good can come of it than if we're all resisting. So, any other questions or comments, sharing that anyone has? Great. Well, tomorrow is the solstice when the sun comes back, and tomorrow is the beginning of the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, and hold on to your hat and enjoy. Oh, does anybody else have anything to say? Okay, and I'm gonna turn this over to Gerald so he can tell you about what might be coming in the future.
So wrap up, stay warm. Wow, thank you for that. So what I will encourage you to do is just be aware this week. Now that you have some framework, be aware of what may show up in your meditation practice, in your life, in your mind, and share with us next week, because we will be doing a meditation based on this discussion, based on transformation and the rare transformational solstice. And we'd love to hear what your experience might be this week, in particular this beginning. And if not, that's fine too, but it just might be something to bring into our commentary after the meditation. So yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to Andrew for suggesting the topic. So other people
Oh, yes.
suggest topics.
Absolutely, we are open to your suggestions or comments or about what we do on these Sunday nights and what we talk about. So yeah. Yeah, next weekend we'll do the meditation. Next Sunday we'll do a meditation, and we hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful solstice and holiday, and enjoy and be grateful and share some of that heart energy that we were guided about. Share that with someone. On Zoom, perhaps, if you have to. That's how we're connecting these days. So go ahead and unmute yourselves, and let's all say good night and thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy solstice.
Happy solstice.
So,
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful evening.
grazie, grazie.
Thank you. Good to see
Thank
everybody.
you, Stephen. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Powerful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Arabella, for
Yeah.
recording. And